Okay, here we go. This this is really a continuation of the last video, and we're gonna go through the equations for the model. Hopefully, if we use a few different switches and we um, we have structured the model easily, actually the Excel equations and the Excel modeling should almost be the easy part. Structuring it and thinking about it should always be the part that's a little bit difficult. And then you can add all sorts of things you might want to add in. And I think at the end of this model, let's put in a investment tax credit, and let's put some other incentives. But let's see how a kind of the solar project can stand on its own first, and then after we see how it can stand on its own, then we'll add some of these. Now, the first thing we might want to do is really put the debt repayment switch, and this we have a to and a from. This was the COD, I hope. So the debt repayment switch from, how about we'll put from slash to. So we'll put the we'll start with the start of the construction, under the construction commercial operation date. And if we had a grace period, we'd have to, we could start a little bit later. Okay, and this is when it's paid. Notice that's at the beginning of the month. So we can put an AND function, and why don't we press the F4 key a couple of times. This is greater than or equal to this one. Let's press the F4 key. And also this one is less than F. Come on, there we go. Okay, do you remember if we can press Shift Control F, Shift Control T, we see kind of here's it when it starts, and that's when it finishes it. Now we're going to need a whole bunch of switches in this part of the model, but one of the key switches will be the month before COD, and the reason that's such an we'll put month. Okay, and we could put equal date, and since we're using the beginning of the month, we can just put a -1. Okay, and again, what we do is put this one F4 equal to this one F4 a few times. Okay, shift, and it didn't. Sometimes Shift Control T, Shift. Sometimes it repeats the conditional formatting. This line it didn't. You notice it put it just right before the COD. Okay, and I think the right thing to do. Let's Alt WFF. Alt WFF. That's what I did to do that. Now the banking fees, we should put this, the banking fees paid. This is like a lot of issues in financing the model. If you lay everything out, because we have some circular reference issues, once you lay something out, then you can pay it. Now, interest during construction paid is down here. And that's down here, all the way down here. Now, the debt service reserve account we don't have, but we can sum these. Okay, and then Shift Control R. Now, okay. Now the next thing is this development cost we funded. The debt is not gonna fund that. So why don't you put an equal minus on that? Okay. Now, the other thing we don't really have is the COD switch. We should really have a financial close switch, rather. So let's put close, because that's when the fees are going to be paid and everything else. So let's get this from the assumptions page. Now, I hope you remember how if you get this from the assumptions page, and we have the we don't have that. So what you have to do to get the add-ins installed is you have to go to the macros and you run this thing as long as the that's installed. Open. Then you can create the link color. Okay, and we'll see where the things come from. Okay. After the financial close, so let's shift down, Control D, Alt FF, Alt WFF, I think. WFF. Okay. Now, okay. Now the debt. Oops, and of course I put this Control X and Control V. That's bad. Now the amount we actually fund of this for the banks are going to add all this development cost and pay for them right at the financial close. I saw that there's that horrible thing that drives me crazy. You know, if we, I keep saying, how did we do this one? We did this all the way, so, okay. I guess we can do it like that. And then you can go to Home, and then you go to Conditional Formatting, and we'll make a new rule, and then we'll use a formula. And this time the formula, remember, you go all the way to the very beginning, and we'll click on this financial close, press the F4 key, so it only keeps it on the S. So you always go to the left, and then when it's the financial close, let's put a fill in here. Maybe we'll fill it something like this, okay? Because that's going to really be that's when all our financing really begins, okay? So we just use the true false, and we were able to use that technique again. And for the development costs that we're going to allow it to be part of the base for the funding, we'll how about we'll try this. We'll sum the whole development cost line, okay, but multiply that by the financial close switch. Now, this I strongly argue for. If you use the whole line, we didn't have to waste our time with any F4 keys or anything else. Now, the development fees we don't have, so eventually here we're going to have to put the equity inputs. And this development fees is very interesting, and the way you can kind of manipulate things. Okay, so let's just put 0 for now, okay? But once we have the development fees, we can put ESD amount. How about, and we can get that. And this is going to be the same thing really as the earlier one, so we press the F4 key and just multiply it by our switch. This is an argument for using the switches, and now we can make our total adjustments. Alt equal, Shift Control R, or oops, Shift Control R. So that's the amount we take out of it, and then the amount we add. So now our funding base for the debt is just this plus this one, okay? Now, when we, so that's how much we're going to be funding. Now, the base for the funding, I keep saying now, the base for the funding is this one. Shift Control R, and then we can put the percentage in the period as this divided by the sum of the whole line. Shift, when I did that, I pressed Shift Control, Shift Spacebar, sorry about that, Shift Spacebar, and then this is the percentage we spend in the various periods. We're going to have some horrible circular references. Well, we might not, actually, because we fix the debt. If we fix the debt, the things are a little bit easier, and then you just press F4 on the fixed amount of the debt, and you can see how much of the debt is going to be financed each period. That's for the debt funding. Now, if you wanted to, the equity funding will just be not the total amount of the funding we need, the actual cash that we need, minus the debt funding. Okay, so we need equity funding for our development cost. We get it all back then. We have a negative amount. And then we have some positive amounts. That's kind of how the thing works. Now, I told you I wasn't going to do the equity funding first, but if we do the equity funding first, it's not that difficult. What we really need first is, let's put the total senior debt as the sum of those two. And the equity funding is the total minus all the debt. And then we can add, oops, it didn't work. I guess we do it like that. And so our total sources are equal to our total uses. And the first thing we can put in our equity funding, how about, is the equity commitment. Now, once we have the equity commitment, we put equity already funded, because that's going to be for this one, each period. That's period by period, and then we put remaining equity. Now, once we have the remaining equity, then we can put our equity balance, and we have the opening balance, and then we add to that the equity issued, or equity contribution. Yeah, issued is, I think, okay, probably, and then closing balance. Okay, and so that's not hard. We'll put the amount first and get the total equity funding from here. Okay, and then let's just first just fix this. And the equity already funding, that's the tricky part. That's the opening balance just accumulates. This balance accumulates how much is funded already. Now, if everything here is at the end of the period, so the amount of the equity funded at the end of this period was nothing. We haven't done anything. Opening balance equals the closing balance, and here's the big trick. You put minimum of the remaining balance, or where's the funding needs? I hope we had the total funding needs here. Okay, that's what we can put, and then Alt equal and Shift Control 1, Shift Control R. Okay, and what should happen now is, oops, interesting that it's not very interesting why you keep putting the equity in, and then here eventually, oops, we've got none left. So the debt funding in this case is just going to be the total amount we need. Again, we didn't need this funding base stuff. Just a minute. Well, maybe. We need to make an adjustment for the. We need to make an adjustment for the development cost. Just. No, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. If we do, I'm gonna start that later, because it really doesn't matter what period that occurred. You're just going to put all the equity in first, and then take the expenditures, and any expenditures you make later on, that's going to be for the debt. So let's just take that. Debt is the total minus the equity. Okay, so we have, this is how much debt funding we have. Okay, so we really funded all the equity, and then including the development costs, and then we have the rest. I think the issue will be if you've got a development fee, that's really going to be part of this up here and not part of this one. So we might have to make an adjustment when we get to the development fee. So the debt funding applied, well, we can say if, let's use an if statement, therefore, then we'll take the, if it's pro rata, we'll take the debt funding here, otherwise we'll take the debt funding here. And if it's true, then we'll take the equity funding from the pro rata, otherwise we'll take the equity funding from this one, which is a little bit trickier. And yeah, that's okay. Did I do that right? Okay, I think I did that all right. And I'd almost suggest these are such crucial kind of things. They drive everything. So perhaps we should kind of put underlines. There should be a book. You should go on the internet and look up rule of underlines. When I was in 1979, starting my career, 83, I worked for this accountant. Oh God, it was hell. So then we, and he yelled at me about the rule of lines. So then we put the capitalized interest during construction. Oh, this is the capitalized fees. Let's first put the capitalized interest and add for the capitalized interest the capitalized fees. Okay, and you know, as I'm saying this, the debt funded is just from this key line we have up here, and the closing balance is the opening balance plus the cap add. Let's use alternate equal, okay? And then Shift Control R. Now when we put the equity fund, the debt funding, this is crucial. This debt funding should have been from this line number 21. It should not, in this case, it should not have included any capitalized interest, which is correct. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is compute the year. So to get the year, I think we can do it straight from here. Let's just, it's so simple. So the year is, we just use the fact that true is equal to 1 and false is equal to 0, and we can just use this debt repayment switch, okay? And it's 0, 0, 0, and it just starts in the whatever that year was, the commercial operation date, okay? Now we can start with our lookup functions. We'll always look up on the year, and then hopefully we can do it really fairly quickly because we set it up correctly. So we put the hedging percent and then the percent, and it was important to put that down. So the short-term rate is look up again. Okay, and then we go to this one and go up to the year first, and then put the spot rate. Okay, and then we put equal lookup. Okay, and then we get the fixed rate. I hope you can see the importance of just setting this up if you're going to use the lookup function. And the annual rate applied would be 70% times the fixed rate plus 1 minus 70% times the flat rate. I don't think that's that bad. And the credit spread is going to be look up again. Whoops, I see, I still do it wrong after all these years. And we put that year, and then we put that credit spread, okay? And now the total annual rate will be these two, so we can press alternate equal like that. And our periodic rate is going to depend on how many months we have in the period. And I think what I'm going to do is up here, we'll probably need this again, but periods to accumulate to year. Okay, and that's, if we put, how about this, we'll put days 360. I'm sure there's a hell of an easier way to do this, but we can put the start date and start date -1 and the end date. And why start date? Oh no, I wanted this to be 30. Okay, I guess that's what we have to do. So it goes from 30 to 180, and then we just put 360 divided by that, and then we have, this gives you 12 months, and so the periodic rate, in this case, it's just, we don't do anything fancy, we simply divide it by 12. And I think these are all percentages, Shift Control P, Shift Control R, and we have all of our interest rate done, and then the interest during construction is just this periodic rate multiplied by the opening balance, and interest capitalized. Now, I didn't put the capitalized switch in here, so you remember that's the we put the switch here, okay, and we'll take this and multiply it by the F4, and then the interest paid is simply the total interest minus how much we capitalized. Okay, and oops, I was afraid of this. I was just going to say, oh, here are our dreaded blue lines. And this is because we have all this is because of the sum of 67. I'm going to temporarily, I hope you don't get mad at me for this, we're going to just, for right now, we're going to have to come back and fix this. I promise not to forget about it, but we'll just put our percentages of only the construction switch. Shift Control R does it not work? Okay, that's we'll fix that circular reference. I think that's not going to be so bad. Well, now the upfront fees, the percent, we put fee percent, and we'll just put the fee percent of, see, I'm flustered after the circular reference. Okay, and then we can put our total debt commitment. This time, here's the problem. This one includes any capitalized interest we have. Now I'm trying to just not have circular references here, so we can press F for that times F for that times our financial close switch. Okay, Shift Control R. And now the debt commitment is, again, let's put annual, okay, we'll put the total debt again. Okay, how's that? That's, again, this includes any capitalized interest. That's a little bit of a tricky one. And we put less the amount that we've already drawn, which is simply the opening balance of the debt. Now, then we have the undrawn debt, which is this minus here. But here's a problem. I suppose we can, that we don't really have any undrawn debt before the construction period, so we really need a construction switch period. Okay, and what we could do is let's so this is from the financial close, and it ends on the commercial operation date, and we already did this kind of thing. So if we do this, it should be all fine. Okay, and then we just have trues only from during the construction period. Okay, I hope the conditional formatting is, you're a believer in the conditional form. I guess I'm gonna, no, to be more accurate, we really don't have any. I could multiply this by the construction period. Okay, so we don't really have anything. We don't have any debt commitment till there, and this whole calculation will only happen during here. Now the commitment fees, will put annual percent, and that's the commitment fee, and then we'll take that commitment fee and just divide it by 12. Now, I could be some fancy thing. We could have done something fancier, I suppose. And then we put this times the undrawn debt. Now, that's going to go negative, so we're going to have to multiply it by that switch. Okay, so if we see this, here's our commitment fee, and it's going down. Now, okay, we'll have to, why did we draw more than, I want to switch the capitalized switch to false for now. Okay. And that's the simplest way kind of look at it. So we just get down here, and then we really don't need to compute it. So then finally we can get the total fees, which are the upfront and the commitment fee. Oops, Shift Control R, and then we put the switch. Okay. Okay, and doesn't matter, we took the same one and press F4, multiplied by this, Shift Control 1, and this minus this, and then Shift Control R. I hope you believe in the Shift Control R. So that's gets to our whole construction section, which is a big deal now. I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to. Okay, so the banking fees, this banking fees that we put up here, this does not depend on whether it's capitalized or not capitalized. So since we have nothing in the thing here, we can put total banking fees. So far, there's no circular reference. This is scaring me. There might not be some circular references. Normally you'd have some circular references if you'd use this percentage approach instead. Now let's do the same thing with interest during construction. Why did okay, all right. Now the interest during construction, obviously I made a mistake on, and what we didn't do on the where's our balance of the construction debt? Well, we never paid it off. Okay, I can say that I didn't do that. Repayment at month prior to COD. I guess that's okay. And we just take the sum of all of this and multiply that by that month before COD switch. That's really why I put that in. Okay, and then I guess we can do it like this. I don't know if I like that, but I'm using the positive number convention, like I've said in other videos. I'm just used to that. If you had made this a negative number, I don't think it would be that bad of a. I'm not gonna be really emotional about this, and so now we have the interest during construction, and we have a reasonable amount. We haven't put development fee or this. And the capitalized interest, we can even do that. That's gonna, and I hope that won't, that's the one I'm kind of more afraid of. We can put the sum of the interest capitalized. A little bit afraid. No, well, false is, but if that's true, no, it won't add the one. So maybe I'm happy that it doesn't add the false here. Plus the fees capitalized. We'll prove that to you later. So now we've got a whole lot of this finished. Oh shit! See, I was afraid of this one. Oh yes. So I'm gonna leave that out for a minute. We're gonna have to resolve that. I thought that would be a circular reference there. Okay. Now let's put in the EBITDA. Oh no! Before we do this, so now the sculpted repayment, and then the total debt, not including any capitalized debt. This issue that we just just had. So I guess one of the only real things is you have to know whether to take the one that's capitalized or not. So we can take this divided by the oops, let's press F4, divide this by F4, and also divide this by the how many periods we have per year. Not F4, and then multiply it finally by the debt repayment switch. Okay, so that kind of introduces us a little bit to some of the debt repayment. So we have nothing, and then it's just flat, and it goes to it goes to zero. Now for the sculpted repayment, that's more painful. I don't want to pretend it's not. We're going to try to ease the pain of sculpting as much as we possibly can. Do I have EBITDA? This is horrible. It's revenues minus expenses. Okay, and the taxes we're going to leave out. Interest income, working capital changes going forward. We'll put the working capital changes here, and actually we have add withdrawals from the working capital. Okay, oops. Okay, and that's all given now. These things that are all given shouldn't cause any problems. The problems will occur because of all the other stuff. So this thing that says use of working capital reserve we can put in. Now we better just, I'm not putting these as negatives, so we better subtract the right amounts and add the other amounts. Okay. Okay. It took a little bit long. Okay, and then I think the idea here will be okay. All right. Okay. Okay, and then the DSCR applied. Well, this is the target. What we need to do here to get the DSCR applied is let's put the how about first let's put the interest rate index. Okay, now the interest rate, that doesn't stay the same over time. So what will you do is you take this one multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate that luckily we've computed already. Where's the interest rate? Periodic rate, but multiply that by the debt repayment switch, and what that will do is it'll create it's like a PV factor. It's like a PV factor. It's like if we took 1 divided by this, it would give us a PV factor. Okay, and now the CFADS, why don't we put total CFADS over debt repayment period? Okay, now if we take all of this, all of the CFADS and multiply it by that debt repayment switch, okay, what you'll have is then the present value of this. So let's take the DSCR applied at PV of CFADS. Okay, and then we can take debt, and then we can get the DSCR, which is going to be this divided by that. That's and because it's a sculpting, and because we are going to keep it constant, it will be the same. So this is kind of a trick. Now, this is a trick that applies if you're given the amount of debt. If you're not given the amount of debt, you basically are going to size the debt based on just some purely given DSCR. So we're not by any means finished with all of this. But what we can do is put some product, and we can, I think what you can do is put a comma here, comma, this one, and, oops, no, we can't do that. Some product, I thought we couldn't. We take this one and divide it by the PV factor. Okay, and then the debt is this time, and again, remember we have this horrible problem with the capitalized interest. This would have to be the total amount of debt. So our DSCR implied by this scenario is this one. So now our target debt service is just the cash flow available for debt service divided by this. Whoops. Okay, and I suppose we should be a little bit careful. We should make sure that that's not zero. That's how you do a test, just with a little if test. That's the same thing as saying this is not zero. Then we go and get the interest expense. This looks like it'll be a circular reference, but it won't because we're using the opening balance of the debt. And then our debt repayment, sculpted repayment, is the target minus this. Okay, and it looks like I already have this even colored, so we put F4 and we multiply that by the sculpted repayment. Oops, let's put an if statement. If this is this, then if it's equal installment, we take the this one. Otherwise, we take the sculpted. Oops, shit. Okay, and then we Shift Control R, and then our opening balance equals our closing balance, and we add. Now here's the thing. We'll put total debt. Again, this is it's a big deal to do it like this and not the other way. This helps a lot. And then you just take this one, F4, and what this does is it makes everything after the construction completely independent of everything before the construction. And the repayments come from here, and this is just this plus this minus this. And the interest rate we've already computed, luckily. Okay, and then we get the interest expense as this multiplied by the opening balance. Okay. Shift Control R. So what we don't have so far, okay, there's the interest expense. We should really put a test to make sure the debt is being repaid. Now what I'm going to do is stop this video because we put the financing in, and once we stop this video, then the next part, I think there are some issues really in the profit and loss and cash waterfall, just a few little issues, and it's probably worth breaking at this point. Okay. All right, so that was 44 minutes. Oh my God.